shut down ports. If you're doing that for the animals, then you go to the abattoir, because that's the point where the economic pressure is, because you've got the timing is crucial. In the same way at the ports, timing of goods, and the blocking of the
One more
system.
question. What is your view with regards to keeping pets?
Yeah, well, the film that influenced the new wave of young, non-violent direct activists, because a lot of the animal rights people have got this reputation of haranguing individuals. Well, the young millennials, they're all about, we've got to be disciplined and not target individuals. We either engage in receptive advocacy, or but I'm getting to that. The Earthlings film, right? Or we target systems. So this young generation have been influenced by this film called Earthlings. Okay. Yeah. So you can watch it. It's quite a dark film, but there's 5 chapters. One is around the food industry. One is around sports. Racing, greyhound racing, horse racing. One is around circuses, entertainment, whatever. And another one is around pets, and then the other one is the medical, pharmaceutical experimentation on animals. But one whole chapter is on pets.
What is your view?
Well, it's basically an exploitative system, the buying and selling, and this is the abolitionist approach, is that the making the profit off the sentient being is where the problem is.
Without that, let's say without that. Let's say you go...
If there was no profit.
Let's say if there's no profit involved and you just wanted to keep a dog or a cat.
Well, the thing is, in my household, and I've come round to it, I never would have done 4 or 5 years ago, before the birth of our latest child.
Okay.
But we've got some rescue guinea pigs, because I see the value of the children connecting with those animals in a different way to what we do on the TV, or the fact that 3 million animals are killed every day in the UK, and we don't see any of it. That's the other relationship.
So if let's say your daughter or your son wanted a dog or a cat, would you allow that?
They've got a cat.
They do?
It wasn't my decision.
Okay.
So I don't feed it. I appreciate it, but it catches a lot of mice. It doesn't really catch birds. But I recognise that it's an animal.
What if it doesn't have any mice to catch? What then?
No, it is fed. That's what I'm saying.
Fed by whom?
It's fed. Like a lot of vegans will even give cats vegan food.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Don't you think that's abusing the animal?
You see,
so the very people who are saying we should take care of animal welfare,
I'll tell you what,
and now involved in abusing the animals.
Dogs do very well off a vegan diet.
On. Don't tell me the dogs are meant to eat.
I've seen vegan dogs of the same type next to each other, and they're more lively than the other dogs.
You see,
when it comes to cats,
be honest with me and tell me, are dogs and cats born to be vegans?
When it just because I'm not into this big the main thing with vegans is they will take on rescue animals.
No, but I'm talking about a pet. Look, there are many vegans and many vegetarians out there who have dogs and cats as their pets.
Yeah.
Now, if anybody forces a dog or a cat, or rather, how would I say, orients them in a way that they have nothing to eat, either they die or they have a vegan meal. Obviously, the dog or the cat is going to eat something, to keep itself alive. Because at the end of the day, it is for their survival. But if anyone does not give them the option to eat the real diet that they are meant to, would you not consider that to be abuse?
I think that the whole pet industry should evaporate, and ultimately then the rescue animals would evaporate.
No, but I'm asking you, if a vegan only feeds vegan food to a cat or a dog, yes, would you not consider that to be abuse?
Well, dogs have been shown to adapt a lot better.
I'm not asking you what it will do once it eats vegan food. I'm asking you the very option that is given, the only option is given, is vegan food. Do you consider that to be abuse of the animal?
Yeah, I think there's levels, isn't there? There's levels of abuse. I mean, because I'm immediately thinking of the abuse of those animals.
It's not their staple diet. Let's put it that way.
That's in the dog or cat feed.
Yeah, it's not their staple diet.
And they've been, slaughtered You know?
Come on, we are not talking about the
And,
slaughtering.
so I think
we are
the
talking
animals,
about
the
we are talking about the
conditions of
cat
those
and a dog as a pet.
Yeah, so I
and
think,
if a dog
I think
and a
about
cat.
those other animals as well.
No,
It's
but
like, well,
you
it's
see,
like-
one thing I've noticed is that whenever I ask you a question, you somehow
What's that Dean say about wasting?
kind of, I don't know, either you knowingly do this, or maybe you have been
I don't
trained
feel-
in your interviews to do this.
I don't feel happy in their situation. I think cats should
Why don't
be,
you just say that is abuse? Because it's
You know
clearly
what I was
abuse.
saying? You know what I was saying about the sovereignty of community? I think the same for the animals. I read to my daughter, Uncle Tom's Cabin. You know? And the main point thrust of that book was that it doesn't matter if you're from a high welfare slave plantation or from a brutal plantation. The biggest cause of suffering was the separation of the mother from the child, of the splitting of the community. And I feel the same for the animals. They've got their natural grouping, which we've separated them from, and that in itself is a cause of suffering. I think,
You see, you have completely neglected the question I asked you.
yeah.
And I think you're doing that deliberately.
Well, I think it's
You
to each
should- you
choice.
should- look.
Do you want to know about our cat?
No, I want to know your view about this vegan guy forcing his cat or a dog to eat only vegan food. Would you not consider that as abuse? And if yes, tell me why. If no, tell me why.
So, with the dogs that I've seen, no. And I'll tell you why. The dog identifies with the family as a pet. You know?
I think
And I don't think that's
look,
a natural situation.
this is
I'm
where
not saying that
you know,
that's
so
a natural situation.
you have been doing
But-
really well so far.
So can I just say with the...
No,
like, for
with all due respect, you've been
Yeah.
doing really well so far.
Yeah.
When it came to this particular topic, I don't think you've been fair. Because to feed a dog or a cat vegan food when you know that is not a staple diet, to me that constitutes abuse.
Well, I think they should be in their natural environment.
And they
if
should
you
be
take-
fed. The natural environment is not vegan. Do you agree?
Yeah, but the animals...
Do you agree?
The animal food that's going to be fed to
Do you
them
agree
haven't-
that natural
haven't been
environment,
in
like
a
you said,
natural
catching
environment.
mice,
Yeah, I think the
it's not
dogs-
vegan.
You know, in
You know,
America...
this is what I don't
in America,
like.
they have dog camp.
You know, one thing I don't like is people, when they know something is wrong, then they should actually be brave enough to say it's wrong.
So-
and you have been brave enough to say it's wrong in many things except this
So
this scenario.
with regard
and you have
to-
not been fair.
With regard to the rainbow gatherings, you remember what I said?
What?
Free from alcohol, drugs, technology, and domestic animals. Okay,
Okay, so maybe no pets in your case.
within the rainbow gathering.
Yeah, but at least you should call out those people who are feeding dogs and cats vegan food when that is not the staple diet.
Well, I wouldn't do that because
Why?
because
Because they
what
would go
see,
against you then?
They see the alternative is giving them animals that have been bred, you know, in a highly distressing situation. You know?
So what do you do? So what do you do? You feed them vegan food?
Well, I think,
Seriously?
like, for me, what Rainbow do with regard to the animals is in America they have dog camp so that the dogs can be with the dogs. The reason why we don't have, or we invite people not to bring their animals, if a dog comes into an environment and there's lots of new people coming all the time, the dog is going to be concerned. It's concerned. Very oftentimes it will bark. It's not happy. It wants to know its pack.
Come
on.
You know, if a
Also,
dog
the human
look,
is
look.
not
Let me
happy.
ask you this:
if
if
it's
a
woken
dog
up in the night,
if a dog doesn't get any food and the only food you put in front of it is vegan food, it's obviously going to eat only vegan food. If you don't consider that as abuse, then I don't know what is abuse.
but this is what I'm saying. There's dog camp.
Let's be fair.
There's dog camp.
To me, let's be fair. That is abuse.
There's a precedent.
Doesn't matter what you say. Doesn't
Putting
matter
the
how
dogs
you.
with the
Doesn't matter
dogs.
how you twist it. To me, that is abuse. Okay, and you should acknowledge that.
Well, I think the abuse.
You're an intelligent person.
What are you going to feed them?
You're going to feed them what they eat. That's staple
We'll
food.
let them go out and hunt.
Either that, or
You're gonna
don't
let
keep them
go
as
out-
pets.
The idea would be to let them go out and hunt.
No, exactly. All I'm saying is, if you want to keep them as pets,
But I
then
wouldn't-
at least respect their staple food.
Well, that's
if
why-
if you don't want them as
For me,
pets,
that's
then that
why-
is a different
For
thing.
me, that's why I don't want to go into the whole
Yeah.
personal.
But at least that.
pet ownership thing.
You see,
That's why
maybe
I'm not involved in it.
No, no.
you know,
Whether you're
because
involved or not, you should call it out. If somebody's
But-
abusing the animal, then you should look at all animal welfare and only not the ones that basically somehow.
Well, this is where, like,
it's within your narrative.
For example, I was in the Pyrenees. Yeah, I was up in the high mountains, and I saw the integrity of the herd of goats. I saw they were free to roam,
Yeah.
and for me, that's joy. I live, where I live in the sticks. I see the dairy calves. They're dehorned, they're castrated, and they spend their whole time joyless in a barn over winter, hard standing, and they're just standing there, and then they spend a little time, in the pasture.
Yeah, but that is something
what is that? That's not.
I'm not talking about that.
Life.
I'm talking about
that's the separation.
Look,
of
when
the
when something is wrong, then you should be brave enough to say it's wrong.
So you see the animals in their natural
what
environment.
I saw just now.
They have that joy of life.
What I saw just now is you being selective in your welfare of the animals.
Yeah, well. Yeah,
instead of you saying clearly that those people exactly my point. Yeah. Then why is it not abuse to force them to be herbivores?
Because it's shown that they're okay. It's shown that they're okay. It's not an ideal situation.
If I tell you to leave a child, yes, by itself without any social life or something, hear me out.
Create this strange.
Hear me out. If you put a child in a room and maybe only give it video games, yes, it might seem okay to you. But you really don't know what's happening to the psychology, to the person, yes? So what seems okay to you for a dog, maybe because you don't speak dog language.
Well, I think dogs should be with other dogs. That's what I see. They've got packs.
Dogs should be eating what is their stable food.
They should be with the pack.
And anyone who forces them to eat only vegan food, they're abusing the animals.
Should be the pack.
Do you agree they're abusing the animals?
Do you agree they should be with the pack?
I think if they're a pet.
A pack.
Yeah, they should be in the natural habitat.
Like the cows should be with the herd.
Okay, so I've agreed. Now, do you agree that it is abuse to feed an animal that is carnivorous to feed them?
Yeah, that's why I don't have a pet. That's why I never.
But do you agree that is an abuse?
We've got rescue guinea pigs.
Do you agree
I agree to having the rescue guinea pigs.
Do you agree that's abuse?
I think, the dogs, ideally, they should be able to hunt for themselves. And like I say, the cat. It's hunting.
Okay. So do you agree those people who keep dogs and pets as pets and feed it only vegan food is abuse?
I feel it makes me feel uncomfortable, to be honest.
Just say it's abuse. Why don't you say it?
No, because
you're very open about you're very
label people as abusers.
Why not? Why not? If they're abusing, okay. So let me ask you something. Those people who abuse, who basically send children to work. Yes, they're abusing the children. Would you not label them as child abuse?
Okay, look. So if we take the situation, okay, like Monkey World. Do you know about Monkey World?
What about Monkey World?
Do you know about Monkey
I
World?
don't think I know about Monkey World.
Right. So there's lots of primates that have been experimented on and have been kept in tiny little cages. Okay. Now Monkey World is a place that's taken them out of those torturous institutions and tried to give them a life.
Was that abuse?
What, the torture? Yeah, so when you smash a primate's head 25 miles an hour against a brick wall to see what the impact is. Yeah, for me that's torture, and that's not necessary.
Is that abuse?
That's abuse.
Would you call them out?
I call them out, yeah.
Would you label them?
Yeah. So
earlier you told me you don't like labeling people.
Well, I don't think it's a good thing. I'm saying I'm not targeting individuals.
I think you're being selective. You're being selective just because the vegans is the vegan people, maybe they identify more with your ideology. That's the reason maybe you don't want to label them. Is that right?
Label who?
The people who are abusing the animals.
No, but I'm talking about the system. It's like, for example,
did you understand the question I asked you?
Is there anyone in an abattoir who's going to enjoy killing animals?
But did you understand the question I asked you?
Do you think the people in the lab?
Did you understand the question I asked you? I'm sure you did. The reason you're not labeling these vegans who abuse the animals by feeding the carnivorous animals the vegan food, you don't want to label them as abusers of animals.
I call them out.
Is because they are the people who might be supporting your cause.
I'd call them out if they bought the pet. Yeah.
So even if they didn't buy the pet, even if they did not buy the pet,
if the animal was going to die,
doesn't matter.
If the animal was going to die.
Even if they rescued the animal,
and they're providing them life.
Yeah, even if they rescued the animal, listen. Even if they rescued the animal,
I don't want to judge them.
You see, this is what I mean selective.
No, it's
yes,
not
you are.
selective.
You are. I'm sorry to say this.
It's clear abuse if you're putting torture on an animal.
No, I'm not talking about torture.
Physical
abuse comes in many forms.
Physical abuse.
Abuse comes in many forms. It comes in psychological form. It comes in physical form, and
like
it also comes in forms where you actually take away the staple diet and then somehow blackmail it into basically you either live or you either die or you eat this food only.
Yeah, I mean, vegans engage in this debate with other vegans. You know,
I think you're intelligent enough to call them out, but you are not doing it for some selfish reasons. I don't know why.
There's a self-critical culture within the vegan community, and if I'm with one group, I might get a feeling, even though that animal is being fed vegan food, that dog, I might feel okay about it. I might be in another situation where a dog is being fed vegan food, and I don't feel happy about a whole situation. There's more factors, and some of the factors I'm saying of the abuse.
You know, the way you water it down, I feel happy or I don't feel happy, instead of saying that these people are abusing this poor animal,
it's the separation
this
of the
animal which cannot talk, which cannot express itself. You are now saying you feel happy or not happy. I mean, you're really watering it down. Just say, you know, like the way you have been talking so critically about this monoculture.
But look at the food.
Maybe you should use the same.
Look at the pet foods. That's what I'm saying.
What about the pet food?
Look what the mainstream is.
I mean, I personally don't agree with any of that.
Look at what
but that is not the point I'm making.
Look at the pet food that the mainstream is offering.
Do you think I agree with that?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't think you would, so I don't
but you
know
shouldn't agree with.
And that's why I don't think.
No, equally.
It's not a happy situation
hold on.
Either
Equally,
way,
you should be calling out those people who abuse these poor animals.
But it's not a happy situation either way. If you feed them the food from the sweepings of factory farms,
if it's not
that's not a happy situation.
Well, if it's not good either way, then call
them vegan.
Then call them both out equally.
I say it's not an ideal world.
No. You see, you're watering it down now.
We're not in an ideal world with regard to humans, and that's what I'm saying. Okay. Community sovereignty, for me, is the solution.
By the way, we talked a lot about the environment, the animals, okay? What about your belief? You know, by the way, I'm a Muslim.
Yeah.
What is your belief in terms of God?
Yeah, I believe we just look around us, you know, there's a creation, isn't there?
Okay.
So
there's a creation, we know. What about the creator?
Yeah. So you don't have one without the other. Then you
not really, not everyone has the same
one.
views. Yeah. Some people completely deny the creator and say that's, you don't.
No, because I'm filled with wonder. I'm filled with
fair enough.
awe. You know, I think people who are
Do you have a particular belief?
No, I mean, I have involved in Buddhist practice. Okay. I don't identify myself as a Buddhist. I've involved a yoga, physical yoga discipline, but I don't really identify myself as a Hindu. Okay. The Buddhist is more about. I like the Buddhism because of the emphasis on compassion to all sentient beings, not just to other humans. So I like that emphasis, and that's
why
it's
the same in Islam. Do you know that?
Well, that's what I'd like to see as leaders from the different.
Just because
Christian
we are not vegans and vegetarians doesn't mean that we are not compassionate to animals. Yeah. Because if that was the case, then you would see that in the teachings. Yeah. For example, we do not even believe that people who go about hunting food for food. And that includes animals, just for trophy hunting or something, is something which is completely disallowed. It's haram, it's forbidden, because you're doing it for a sport, and you're causing pain to the sentient being without any cause other than your pleasure. So their pain is your pleasure, basically, and that is something that we don't.
So Muslims wouldn't go to circuses or to like dog racing or horse racing, or
well, ideally they shouldn't, because all of these places the animals get abused.
SeaWorld or whatever. Yeah.
Well, if they, like I said, keeping dogs even, other than for hunting or for your protection or something, is something that's not allowed. So that includes other pets, for example. So if you're misusing if you're mistreating the animal, then it's something that you're not allowed to do.
Yeah, well, this is what I'd say to the Muslim community. The green community is a very large community.
It is,
and it has no scripture. You see what I mean? And
no, but obviously,
particularly amongst the young, who are concerned about the future. You know, so that's what I'm saying. It's like leadership from, it's like the message that's put across, and a lot of the time, it's like it seems a lot about the head, theological debate, and less about the heart. And I think people from, there's the kind of idea, or there's a kind of characterization of the hippie who's just thinking with the heart and has no brains up there.
By the way, some of the verses in the Quran, it says think it goes along the lines of thinking with the heart.
Yeah.
So it's not something completely disconnected with our belief.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, your heart and your mind, yes, there's a connection. And either of them we cannot ignore. So you think rationally, but at the same time, you also feel emotionally. And this is quite important. What about after you die? Do you believe there is a life after death?
Oh, I have enough concerns with this life.
I know, but we believe that this life is temporal, and the real life starts after you die.
Okay.
So in your temporal world, you prepare for the real world. So whatever you do here is something that's going to be, basically, that's going to impact your afterlife.
So there's another dimension.
There's another dimension, another life after you die. It's not something like you breathe your last and that's it.
But it's not like
come to an end.
reincarnation.
No, we don't believe in reincarnation.
So what is it? You kind of come into a different...
We believe in the heaven and hell concept.
You don't come into a physical being in the real world?
No, you don't come back to this world, if that's your question.
Well, a corporate
There's another
body in another dimension?
Yeah, there's another, what do you say, existence in which you're going to exist. And this existence is something... Yeah, so you're going to basically be resurrected. I wouldn't use the word incarnate. So you die and you're going to be resurrected. And your life in this world, in this temporal world, is basically going to decide what your afterlife is going to be. So if it is, maybe it's the same like karma, if you want. If you do good, then, but then what is good and what is bad is something defined by the religion rather than your own whims and desires. So basically, I mean, even in your community, I'm sure you might have people who might disagree with each other as to what is good and what is bad. So, but in our faith, we have this spelled out for us as to what is forbidden and what is permitted. And if we abide by that, then we will basically be judged based on that. So after life, the resurrection is the day of judgment, when every human being, good and bad, they'll be judged on the day of judgment. So we believe that God is the ultimate judge, and He's the one who is going to establish justice on that day. So say, for example, you might have someone like Al Capone or someone very, very rich and powerful, and they might live their whole life, I don't know, abusing other people and mistreating other people and doing all sorts of evil and maybe some good as well. And one day, after leading this life, they just die. So no one's brought them to account. Yeah. Now this is something that...
But shouldn't we intervene?
If we cannot, that's what I'm saying. These guys were so powerful that no one could intervene. Yes? And they let their entire life...
We should do our best to intervene.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So as far as humans are concerned, it's obviously everyone's responsibility to bring the people who are oppressive, yes, who are oppressing the people, they should be held accountable. But depending on the factors and the situation of this world, maybe those people might not be brought to justice. And they might have died peacefully, who knows? Yeah, leading this evil life, they might die peacefully. In this world at least from the perspective of the people around them. Now, on the day of judgment, this person who might have escaped all sorts of justice in this world will not escape the justice in that world. So, I don't know, how much do you know about reincarnation? Have you studied much about it? This is the Buddhist reincarnation, yeah?
Yeah, so it kind of makes sense to me in some ways.
Does it?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. If somebody does something evil like this, this drug dealer, for example, yeah? He might come back as a different life form. Yeah? Who knows, maybe a cockroach or something. Yeah? So in a reincarnation world, what is the best thing a cockroach needs to do to become a human again?
Is it possible? I mean, in that system, can you backtrack?
Oh, yeah. So if you, from what I know at least, that if you do good, then you come back as a good person.
So if you're a good cockroach...
that is the thing. What is a good cockroach?
Right, okay. Yeah.
What is the best thing a cockroach needs to do to reincarnate as a human being?
I don't know, look after his family? I don't know.
that is something that didn't make sense to me. So I asked this directly to Buddhists and also to some Hindus who also believe in a very similar reincarnation system, of belief. So they were unable to answer. And to me, that doesn't seem convincing, that just because someone has led a bad life or a good life, they have another life in which they have to basically restart all over again and go through that process again. Yes, to me it seems unfair, because imagine you had an exam and you know at the end of the exam you'll be getting some reward, or you'll be basically going to, I don't know, become an engineer or a doctor or something. Yes, and then you realize that after you finish the exam and you passed and you graduated, you have to give another exam. Yes, and with the same expectation. So this is like a never-ending thing. Whereas in theirs, I think they do end at some point where they become enlightened, and after that there's no more incarnation, from what I know. But that system reaching to that level of enlightenment, yes, they have to go through several cycles.
Samsara, isn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, several cycles before they actually reach that, and there's no guarantee they'll reach that. So they might be in some sort of a...
Isn't that through the karmic system? You know, if you're constantly on the path, then you're going to follow that. Like I know you've got the Hinayana and the Mahayana.
I don't know the
So the Hinayana is like the more ascetic practice, and you're going on your own to reach enlightenment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's
the
a different.
Mahayana is more emphasis on the community, and we're all going together slowly or whatever.
Oh, that's basically just the ways in which you can attain salvation. But what I'm saying is that the process is still there. So you still have to do something in order to gain the good or the bad, depending on your actions. So to me, that doesn't seem to be fair. But in Islam, or at least in the Abrahamic faiths, they do have the concept of heaven and hell. So depending on your temporal world in this life, you prepare for your eternal life.
Well, I don't know, I've seen the Hare Krishnas, they seem to have a concept of hell, or in their manuals.
Yeah, I was talking specifically about the Buddhists, for example, because that's what you kind of alluded to earlier.
Which was more, a system of observing the body, observing the thoughts, and allowing them to pass. It's like for me, it's like a good relaxation.
Have you looked into Islam?
When I was younger, I used to read stuff, and I've read bits of the Quran.
Okay.
And there's a lot of funny stories. Like when Jesus was born, he came out of the womb speaking, or something like this.
Yeah, that's one of the miracles of Jesus. Yeah, so in the Bible, the first miracle is converting water to wine. In Quran, Jesus' first miracle was to speak in the cradle.
Yeah.
But there's a reason for that. Do you know why he spoke in the cradle? It was basically during the time of Jesus, during the Jewish the Jewish community, they were quite conservative. So because Jesus was born miraculously, the community did not believe that his mother was telling the truth. Obviously, so even if she protested and said, no, this is Jesus was miraculously given to me by God, yes, they wouldn't believe her.
So you think there was a heavy stigma on that?
No, not only stigma. There was actually a death penalty at the end if they were not convinced. So she would be stoned to death. Mm-hmm. So it's more than just a stigma.
Yeah,
exactly. So this was a life and death situation. So obviously, because we believe that Jesus was born miraculously, just like the Christians do, yes, we believe that God has also given protection to his mother at a time when she is unable to defend herself. So even if she said something, they still wouldn't believe it, and they might have